A Bus Called Heaven by Bob Graham. Abandoned, the bus appeared one morning from a sea of traffic right outside Stella's house where no bus should be. Tired, old, and sick, it had a hand-painted sign on it, held down with packing tape. The sign said, Heaven. A Bus Called Heaven. The bus brought change to Stella's street. Traffic slowed where no traffic had slowed before. People stopped and talked together. Just a little, but they talked. Stella changed too. She took her thumb from her mouth where it usually lived and said, Mommy, that old bus is as sad as a whale on a beach. Then she pushed open the door and climbed on board. Stella, the color of moonlight, stood among the bottles, cans, and trash. She was so pale you could almost see right through her. It could be ours, she whispered. Whose? Asked Nikki, Vicky, Alex, Yasmin, and Poe. What did she say? Asked Mrs. Dimitros. Ours, she said louder. Well, whoever's it is, it needs to come off the road, said Stella's mom. And when Dad came home that afternoon, he found an old bus where the front yard used to be. The wheels stick out onto the sidewalk, he said. There are sure to be regulations. Well, it's staying here, said Stella. That's my regulation. Next morning, Stella looked out her front window. People were sitting on the wall where no one had sat before. Under the bus were Esther, Rajit, Chelsea, and Charles. Mommy, said Stella, I'm going out. And she joined them. That day, the bus settled in. Weeds nudged up around the tires, snails made silver trails, and a pair of sparrows nested in the old engine. While the children played, the grown-ups mopped and scrubbed and polished. That night, the bus got a bit of new paint. Hello, boys, said Mom. I've got an idea. Come back tomorrow, and you can paint the whole bus. Make it sparkle. Next morning, Stella drew a picture for the rats to copy. People came with donations. Poppy brought her goldfish, Eric. Luke gave a set of super comics. Stella carried in her table soccer with the missing goalie. Mrs. Stavros brought a bus cake, and Lucy lent her dog Bear for anyone who just needed to sit and pat something. Life returned to the old bus. Stella's fingers fluttered and her soccer players spun. Babies crawled, people laughed, kids fought, granddads scratched dogs, meetings were planned, couples met, and the Fingles showed their vacation photos. One Saturday morning, just outside Stella's house, there was music and dancing, there were picnics and laughter, when a tow truck arrived. It's against regulations, said the driver. This bus is causing an obstruction. It means it sticks out, Stella's dad whispered. The bus has to go, said the driver. As the front wheels left the ground, snails dropped from under the bus, and a twittering came from the old engine. Go where? Gasped the crowd. To the junkyard, came the reply. The crowd pleaded for their bus, but the junkyard boss came out to join the driver and shook his head. This one's for the crusher. A little pink glow crept across Stella's cheek. 3 rescued snails were deep in her pocket. Excuse me, she said. Shall we play table soccer? You can have the only goalie, but if I win, we'll keep the bus. And why, said the junkyard boss. Tell me why should I play you for the bus? Because, Stella replied, there are sparrows nesting in the engine. The game began. Handles spun, the ball smacked end to end, and then goal! Stella scored. She followed that with 9 more and won. The boss put out his hand. Joe, he said. Stella, said Stella, and they shook hands. Then Stella ran to the front of the bus. Come and see, she said. Chicks! Amid the frantic flapping of the parent sparrow's wings, Joe, the junkyard boss, spoke quietly. Better get your bus somewhere safe, kid. Somewhere out of the way. Thank you, said Stella, and the crowd cheered. I know where we can take it, said Stella. While the others pushed, she and Mom sat up front to steer, almost back where they'd started from. And when the old bus came to a rest at last, everyone else needed a rest too. Well, almost everyone. That evening, in the vacant lot just behind Stella's home, music drifted high over the city, and the grass was danced flat around a bus called Heaven. As a full moon rose, 3 snails slid safely back under the tires, and tomorrow Stella will see the sparrow chicks fly for the first time.